Hi everyone, welcome back to the Festival of Nature. I hope you're enjoying everything that we've been going on so far. And today I am very, very excited to welcome to the screen with me, Alom Shaha. Come on in.
Hi, Olivia.
Good to see you there. How are you doing?
I'm all right. It's a beautiful Sunday morning here.
No, brilliant. And I hope you're as excited as I am to get this started this afternoon.
Yes, I really am. Yeah, this is my first event of this type, so I'm really keen to have it work well.
Brilliant. And for those of you who are joining us, we are going to be making along with Alom today. And so I think what we're going to need is 2 sheets of A4 paper. They can be scrap pieces of paper that you have lying around, old bills, which I think is what I've got to try and make with as well. And if you have it, a little bit of tape, but don't worry if not, that's absolutely fine. So while you're just getting those things ready, Alom, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to make these things? What's your current job at the moment?
My real job, if you like, is a science teacher. I teach science at a secondary school to 11 to 18-year-olds, and I do that part-time. I've also got 2 young children of my own, a 4-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And I guess I've spent most of my professional life communicating science in some shape or form, so mostly as a science teacher, but I've also been what the term science communicator, making films about science and doing shows and now writing books about science. So yeah, I've had a varied career, but most of it kind of based around communicating science and telling people about science, I guess.
No, that's great. And what science did you train in? What's like your main science topic? I know at school we do like the biology, chemistry and physics, but what one would you say is the one that you're most familiar with?
So I've got a degree in physics, but as a science teacher, I cover biology and chemistry as well. But I guess my specialism is physics, and that's what I teach at A level. But I'm quite comfortable talking about biology and physics to school children as well.
Okay, great. And just before we get along with our first make along, hopefully those of you out there have managed to gather your pieces of paper together by now. Just before we get started, what would you say is your favorite thing about what you do?
I guess, well, that's a really good question. So I think, I'm an atheist, and that is relevant to my answer. Let me explain why. If you don't believe in God, for example, then you have to kind of find meaning and purpose in life for yourself ultimately. And I think being a teacher is a way for me to do something that I feel is worthwhile in this world. And it's a job that allows me to connect with other people all the time, and it's definitely something that is needed in the world. So the teaching side of my work is something that absolutely provides a sense of meaning and purpose that for me is something that I think we all ultimately need. So that's why I continue to be a teacher and why I enjoy my job, I suppose. Well, there's all sorts of reasons why I enjoy my job. I'm rambling a bit, but yeah, I think teaching for me is a job and a role that provides a sense that I am doing something worthwhile with my life, and it helps me create meaning and purpose, because I think ultimately that's what we're all trying to do. In terms of my other work, I'm very, very lucky that I get paid to write. I've been paid to make films and so forth. And this kind of comes back to what this new book is about, in that I think we all have a kind of fundamental urge to create, to make things. And I think often people think being creative means being an artist or a photographer or a filmmaker, but I don't think that's necessarily what being creative means. If you think about it, the word creative just means to make things. And I think for me personally, making anything, whether it be a piece of writing that I'm pleased with or a curry that I'm pleased with, it kind of again comes back to this thing of trying to find meaning and purpose in life. And for me, making is something that gives me a sense of fulfillment and peace and focus, all these benefits there are to making. And I'm, as I said, incredibly lucky that I've somehow arrived at a position in my life. I'm 47 now, where I occasionally get paid to make things, and that's just such a privilege. However, I want to stress to anyone who's listening that, you know, that's not what the joy of making is about. It's not about getting paid. It's a bonus if you're getting paid, but I think there is a fundamental joy that we can find in making things, and it can be as simple as some of the things I'm going to show you today.
Oh no, that's brilliant, and I can completely agree with that. And I think that my joy from this so far has actually been, as soon as I found out I was going to be talking to you and getting really excited about actually what we're going to be making. And so, speaking of making things, shall we start making something?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm guessing most of the people watching know how to make a paper aeroplane. It's something that is probably one of the first things children learn how to make in terms of their own toy. And so I won't show you how to make a paper aeroplane unless people desperately want to see how to make a paper aeroplane. But what I do want to share is something that a lot of people don't know how to make, which is a paper helicopter. Do you know how to make a paper helicopter? You may do.
Oh, no.
Okay, well, that's great. I find that a lot of people don't know how to make a paper helicopter, but I'm going to show you how to make one now. Shall we show people?
Yeah.
Can you bring up my hands by magic?
Ooh.
Okay, so I've got this piece of scrap paper. It's a worksheet. And it was a spare one, not one that one of my students didn't do. So if you've got your A4 piece of paper, you just need to cut off a strip of it that's about yay wide. I don't know if you can see that. I'll measure that for you in case anybody needs a measurement, but it doesn't have to be very precise. That's about 3 inches, but I am a science teacher, so I should probably give you that in centimeters. That's about 7 or 8 centimeters, right? So the first thing, and you can do this with scissors, but it's just as easy to kind of put a fold in it, and just if you run your nail along it, I'm sure you know that you can then gently just rip that apart, and you should be left with a strip of paper like that. Are you following along, Olivia?
I am following along. I only just slightly ripped it a little bit wrong.
Okay.
But it should be okay.
That's it, great. Okay, so once you've got your strip of paper like this, you need to fold it in half along its length, as it were. So fold it in half along its length. And again, you can use scissors, but I'm just showing you a really quick and easy way to do this. And then what you want to do is just about halfway along, just again do that thing with your nails, and then a bit more carefully this time, Olivia.
Okay.
You're just going to tear that about just under halfway along, so something like that. Okay, and while you've got it like that, if you fold one edge over like that, and then turn it over and fold the other edge over like that, what you should have is something that looks a bit like that. Okay,
I'm almost there with my one.
excellent. Okay, great. Okay, now what you want to do, again, do the thing with your nails and just run your finger along, and what you're doing is ripping just halfway along that blade, right? So you want to make a little cut that's just halfway along that bit, like that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And the same with the other side. You want to just run your finger along it like that, and just make another rip like that. So what you've got is this, with a little rip there and a little rip there, and then fold in from those rips like that. Does that make sense, Olivia?
Yep.
Excellent. And then the other side as well. So what you should be looking at is something like that.
I will be in a second.
That's okay.
Yep.
And then just take the bottom and fold it about just under a centimetre, about 3 or 4 times, so it looks like that.
I think I did mine the wrong way. I'm just gonna redo it the right way.
That's okay.
And then fold it 3 or 4 times at the end.
Yeah, just so it holds the bottom together. And what you'll have now is a slightly heavier base.
Okay.
Right, have you got that?
I think so.
And then you have to hold it up and fold one piece of paper towards you, one piece away from you, and then it should look like that. Yeah, that's it. Right, and now if you change the camera, and I'll hold it up to this one. Excellent. So you should have something that looks like that. And then with a bit of luck, if you drop that, I think you've just seen that fall past me. It will spin. Have you managed that, Olivia? Drop it.
Oh yeah.
Right. So if you do that from a greater height, it's a bit more impressive, but it spins, and it falls more slowly than it would if it didn't spin. And that's because the spinning motion of the blades produces lift in a way that's similar to the way that a real helicopter produces lift. And it's a paper helicopter, which I find amazing. Like when you're a kid, like every kid sees a paper aeroplane, but this is a paper helicopter, and I think every kid should see one of these. And as you can see, that it takes literally seconds to make. And my 4-year-old loves dropping this from the top of the stairs, and it's just something like a lot of the activities in the new book. It's just something that you can knock up in a couple of minutes, and it will keep your child amused for several minutes. And anyone who's got children knows that it's rare to find anything that keeps them amused for more than 5 or 10 minutes. But I'm not lying. I promise you, my daughter will happily play with that for at least 5 minutes. Take airplanes as well. So that's what I mean by being able to make something from a piece of scrap paper that, if you're a child and you haven't seen that, I guarantee it will elicit a feeling of joy.
I completely agree with that. I mean, I'm an adult and I haven't seen that, and you all just heard the noise I just made when I saw it spin. That's fantastic. I can't wait to go to the top of the stairs and actually see it spin more.
Yeah, and if you're a parent and you kind of feel like you want to maybe extend the activity and you've got a child who might engage with it a bit more, you can investigate what factors make it fall quicker or slower. So for example, you could make a bigger version. You could attach paper clips to the bottom. You can make it a bit more experimental, but you don't have to do that sort of thing. But there's ways to make the activity more interesting. And the other thing I should mention, which is the obvious thing, if I make this with my daughter, I will get her to color it in and decorate it. And that's actually true of lots of the activities, that decorating something just makes the activity last longer and more interesting. So that's my top tip.
And then you can see if they fly down, which one goes faster, the red one or the blue one as well.
Does colour affect the speed at which a helicopter descends? But yeah, that's absolutely, you're absolutely right in that children should be free to kind of explore any question they want. And as I said, look, I don't know if the people watching this know how to make that, but if you don't, then to me, it's just something every parent ought to know.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that I know about that now too. And I'm going to tell people who, if they're not watching this video, I'm going to tell them, come and watch this video and learn how to make this, or I'm going to go and show them how to do it, because
Excellent.
I've found that fantastic as well. Good. And just while we're making toys, what is your earliest memory of actually making a toy or seeing a toy being made?
So I talk about this in the book. There's a real kind of tradition of making toys where I come from. I was born in Bangladesh, and this is not a sob story by any means. I grew up in an impoverished household, and we didn't have shop bought toys as such. But that didn't mean we didn't have toys. And a memory that has stuck with me was seeing a cousin of mine take a lychee seed and bang a nail into it to make a hole, and then he put a matchstick into that hole, and then he made a spinning top. And unfortunately, I don't have a lychee seed with me today to show you, but you know, I think that there's a rich tradition of making toys from trash, as the most famous Indian kind of purveyor of this idea calls it. There's a whole YouTube series called Toys from Trash by this guy whose name I can't remember at the moment. But you know, when I was a kid, I brought along one of the things that I used to play with, even in England. And I don't know if you can see that. It's a block of wood, and it's got a clothes peg attached to it by an elastic band. And I don't know if you can guess what it is. Can you guess what it is, Olivia?
I feel like something's going to move.
Yeah. Okay. So it's basically a really, really clever catapult. So what you do is you make this thing, and as I said, you need a long bit of rectangular wood, a clothes peg, and an elastic band, and then you take another elastic band and you put it into the clothes peg, and then you do that, and then you can fire this elastic band at that thing. And I can't tell you, look, when you're like 7 and you haven't got a shot bolt gun or you know, I don't,
a toy thing to play with,
a thing that fires things. This is amazing, and I'm not going to talk about the ways in which you can enhance this, but there are ways of enhancing this so it's even much more fun. And the reason why I'm not saying how you can enhance this is because it can be become quite dangerous. But essentially, this is a catapult, and I haven't included this in my book because it needs a piece of wood. But there is a catapult in the book that doesn't need a piece of wood, and there's a catapult in my first book, Recipes for Wonder, which is this thing, which is actually fires projectiles with quite some velocity. But I love these because they're literally, you know, toys made from trash, and there's something, I think, irresistible for children about devices which fire stuff. And you know, I am not buying my young children guns, but I will probably introduce them to the notion of a catapult at some point. So the catapult was definitely something I made as a child and played with. But you know, I think part of the reason why I'm really pleased to write this book is there's a thing where a lot of kind of I'm going to say middle class science communicators talk about how they grew up with Lego or Meccano and how that inspired them to become engineers or whatever. And I think it's important to remember that not every child has access to Lego at home or Meccano, and not every person grows up in an environment where they have access to shop bought toys, right? And for me, I didn't have Lego, but that didn't stop me from kind of trying to make stuff from whatever bits and pieces I could find around me. And I think the world has changed greatly. So, for example, when I was a kid, I remember wanting a stereo, but I couldn't afford a stereo. But what I could do is go to the local secondhand market and buy the different bits and pieces and kind of put it together myself. And you know, I'm not talking about putting the individual resistors and capacitors together, but you know, I could fix a record player. I could put together a stereo system of sorts from, you know, speakers and other components that you could buy cheaply. And I think we've lost that a bit, in the sense that, you know, if your iPhone breaks, most people wouldn't know how to. I wouldn't know how to fix my iPhone. I wouldn't know what to do. And I think you know, this idea that making stuff, encouraging kids to be engineers, that you have to have access to Lego, or you have to pay for one of those kits that get delivered in the post for £50 a month. You know, I kind of object to that, and I think, you know, I'm kind of rambling again. I'm probably being incoherent, but part of what I want to do with this book is to show people who maybe can't afford Lego, can't afford a kit in the post every month, that you can still expose your kids to engineering and making with just literally with scrap paper. and elastic bands and sellotape. And part of the problem with being a book writer and an author is, obviously, let's be absolutely frank about this. The only people who buy books tend to be people who can afford to buy books, middle class people, and I'm very aware that my book probably isn't going to end up in the hands of the kind of people I would like it to end up with. But I will be publishing videos showing how to do the makes in the books, and I'll be doing talks at primary schools. I'll be trying to give away as many copies of the book as possible to kids who need them. I don't know quite how I'll finance that, but I'm going to find ways. But yeah, I'm probably doing myself out of book sales by telling people that I'm just going to put the content online so people can see this. And I feel very strongly that when we talk about things like diversity and accessibility and so forth, that often one of the things we miss out is poor people. I think and I as I said, not a sob story, but I grew up in a very impoverished environment, and but that didn't stop me from being kind of creative and being interested in making and so forth. And so a lot of the stuff in this book are just very, very simple things that I knew how to make as a child that I found entertaining, and I just want to share my joy in those things. And I think I hope anyone listening or watching will help me do that, I guess.
And I think those messages that you've actually just spoken about are really, really important, actually.
In a really incoherent way, but I hope I don't know. I hope you get the gist of what I'm saying. I just feel that I feel really strongly that I'm a parent now, and it's really expensive to have children and keep them from amused and entertained and engaged all the time, and I'm very lucky now. I'm so privileged now. I'm a middle class person. I've got a job. I can afford to take my kids to the soft play. I can afford to buy my kids Lego if I want to. But there's a couple of things that prevent me from absolutely sharing my kids with new toys all the time. One of which is kind of the sheer amount of plastic and waste that seems to entail. And also, I kind of don't want to. I'm trying not to spoil my children. I'm probably failing, but I also want them to we know that kids don't need a massive plastic battery operated car to be entertained, because actually we've all seen it when you give kids the new toy and they end up playing with the box. And I guess what I'm saying is, like, my book just helps make playing with the box a little bit more interesting, because that's what you need for my book. You need bits of paper and bits of cardboard.
Anything anyway, that's around the house. No, that's fine. It's all really, really interesting, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's making engineering more accessible to people who.
I hope so.
And even the word engineering, I think, I know for me at school, I didn't know what the word engineering was. And I think that if I did a bit more, I probably would have wanted to go more in that direction, because it is being really creative and making do with what you've got as well. I think
I did a physics degree, but I often think that I probably should have done an engineering degree. And I kind of just didn't know enough about engineering at the time. And I was so excited about physics and so forth. But I think practically I probably might be more successful as an engineer than I've been as a physicist. But I also think, a lot of young people kind of don't see that science and engineering are creative endeavors. And actually, I think if you introduce children to making from a young age, then maybe that they'll get a sense that engineering and making are genuinely creative and enjoy the kind of the thrill of making stuff, which unfortunately there's not that many opportunities to do in school. That we have like CDT or DT or whatever they call it now, but the opportunities for children to make their own things is limited. Anyway, sorry.
Again, I completely agree with you.
I don't know if we want to do another make or something.
I was just about to say, we can. Again, speaking of making lots of things out of stuff we can find around the house, let's get back to our pieces of paper and make something else.
I've got another scrap of paper, and I'll show you something. This is something that I learned as a kid, and I'm kind of surprised more people that I encountered don't seem to know about this thing, but I will show you. So just follow along. You need your sheet of A4 paper, and you need to fold it in half lengthways, like that. Have you done that?
Yep.
And then you need to fold it half again in the opposite direction, or perpendicular direction, whatever the correct term is. And then you're just going to open your paper up, and what the folding should have done is produced a cross, and that's just to guide you. So the next thing is to grab a corner of the paper and just fold it to the line in the middle, like that, to the long line in the middle. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then do that with every corner of the paper.
It's like the top of a paper aeroplane.
Yes, but on both sides.
On both sides.
That's right, yeah. Okay.
I think the reason my lines aren't completely straight is because I'm using my lap instead of a table. But that's fine.
So, yeah, excellent. And then just fold that in half like that.
Cool.
Okay, and now pay attention here, because this is where it gets a little bit complicated. You need to take a corner and fold it to the line in the middle like that. Yep.
Yep.
And then the same with the other corner.
Yep.
Okay, and then now watch, so, and then fold it in half like that. So it's face down on the table like that, just fold it in half like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this bit is really important because you need to pick it up in the correct way, right? So if you put it back down, right, and then lift it up like that, and then grab the opposite corner like that, and so you should be holding it there
At the bits where the points meet each other.
Yeah, that's right. And now let's cut back to the main camera. Okay, so you should be holding your thing like that. Can you hold yours up, Olivia? Yeah. Okay, and then what you do is that.
Let me try it again. I'm gonna hit my arm on the wall. Oh, it did work. It did work. I think I need to put a little bit more force behind it.
Did it make an impressive noise?
Made a little noise. I think I just need to put a bit more force behind it.
Okay, so if you put a bit of willy into it, then you get quite an impressive noise.
I'm just in a really...
Probably stop before you destroy your office.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm going to try it in a bit.
That's just again something I learned as a kid. You can take any scrap of paper and it makes it. I don't know if you can tell through the laptop, but it makes a really impressively loud noise. And actually, different types of paper make different types of noise. And I won't tell you which type of paper to use, but there certain types of paper work really well and give you a very, very satisfying explosive noise. And again, that's something I've done that with my youngsters at school. I've done it as an activity with my year 7 students, and they're absolutely kind of amazed by it when they get it working. There is a knack to it. You have to kind of really give it a bit of a jerky motion, I suppose. But once you get it, it's one of those things that takes just a few seconds to make and just delights you for a little while, and it's something to do with a bit of scrap paper.
No, I think that's great. And actually, this is one thing that I have come across before. As soon as you held it in your hand, I was like, yes. I know what you're about to do with this one. And I'm really disappointed that I whacked myself instead of making the loud noise, but I'm going to try it afterwards because they're great.
You can make a more sophisticated version of it with using bits of card and then taping paper to it and so forth. And what I've tried to do with a lot of the activities in the book is give you the most basic version of the thing that you can make, and then encourage children and their parents to try and make it better. So part of my approach to this book is not to give you the best version of this thing that you could make, but to give you the most basic version, and then for children and parents to go along and try and make it better. And I think there's a huge satisfaction to be had from taking something like that and making a better version. And that's engineering. You're doing engineering.
And that kind of leads into, I guess, what my next question would be, which is, what do you think the benefits are from making your own toys instead of buying them? I mean, sometimes it's nice to buy something, but yeah, what do you think the benefits are
I think
of making it?
I think there are lots of benefits to be had from doing this sort of thing with your children. Apart from anything else, it's saving money. As a parent, I've already spoken about this. And not adding to the huge amounts of plastic and crap that we all seem to be buying. So that's one of the benefits. The other thing is, all the evidence shows that if you want children to do better at school, if you want happier, better adjusted children, like, the best thing you can do is read to them, right? So parents who read to their children give their kids a head start in life. But similarly, any kind of activity that you do with your child is going to enrich their lives. And what the advice is from people who understand about children more than I do is actually just talking to your children and conversing with them, engaging them in the world. And these activities in my book, they just give you a starting point from which to engage your child in conversation about the world, really. How does this work? What would happen if we did this? And so forth. And more than that, primary school teachers often complain that kids turn up at school not knowing how to use scissors, not knowing how to handle things. And I have to tell you, as a teacher of sixth formers myself, I've met children who can't set up a clamp and stand at the age of 17. So I think a book like this encourages, I don't know what the technical term is, but encourages kids to be able to use their hands and to do things like folding and cutting. So I think there are those kind of benefits as well. So, and ultimately it all comes back to this thing of being creative and making your own things, and how that, I think, taps into a natural kind of urge we all have to want to create and to make.
What would you say to parents, for example, who are, I guess, too afraid of not knowing where to start with being creative? Or
I'd say buy my book, obviously. I really would. I would. That, you've kind of identified my target audience. Both with Recipes for Wonder and Marvelous Machines. I've written these books so that people with no scientific knowledge, no engineering knowledge, can do the activities with their children confidently. And what I've provided in the book is advice for parents on how to approach doing these activities so they can get the most out of them. And as I said, look, I'm a teacher, so I don't know if that makes me think more about this stuff, but I really know that in order for my children to get the most out of whatever we're doing, really all I have to be doing with them is talking and conversing and engaging them. And what I've provided in my books is just tips for parents on how to do that. But also, I've shown you two of the activities. The other activities in the book are mostly similarly easy. There's a few that are a bit more fiddly, a bit more sophisticated, but actually the reason why I've chosen these activities is so that they're easy to do, so they're not challenging for the parent, and because I don't want that to be an obstacle in the way of people engaging with this stuff. And that's what I think actually, I'm here to plug my books. I'm going to, right? If you can go and pick up any number of these kind of books with like 100 science activities to do at home, and they clearly haven't been tried out by people at home with kids. And it's just like, I've stayed away from needing anything complicated. Like I think the overwhelming majority of things in this book need paper and sellotape, maybe some rubber bands, and I've tried every single one of them. I've done them with my kids and I know they work. And I'm coming from the perspective of a parent and a teacher. Anyway, I'm ranting again.
No, it's great. We can see how definitely how passionate you are about it, and I can definitely second that. I bought this the other day as well, and I been skimming through it, reading through it, haven't got around to doing any of the things in it yet. But I can definitely say that the way it's written is really, really lovely to read, actually. And also the images that go with it are beautiful too.
I just want to give a shout out while we're here to Emily Robertson, who's the artist, and here's the new book. I think her illustrations just captured exactly the kind of tone and feel that I wanted, and I think her illustrations really help to set these books apart. And I believe I don't think I'd be happy with these books if I didn't feel they were different to what is already out there. And as I said, I think Emily's illustrations play a big part in that. So
you can really tell how passionate you are about it, and it's really, really interesting and engaging, the books.
Well, thanks for having me. I think it's the first time I'm talking about it, and hopefully I'll become a little bit more articulate and coherent as I talk about the book in public a bit more. But I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about it, because I am passionate about it, and it's very difficult as a kind of, I'm not famous, I don't have a mainstream media platform, I don't have a radio show or a TV show, so it's very difficult for someone like me to sell lots of books, and it's not so much about selling books and making money as reaching as wide an audience as possible. And as I said, look, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm going to put these activities online for free. It's about getting these messages out there. But if anyone's watching and they want to support what I do, then the best way to do that is to buy a copy of the book.
Yeah, and you won't regret it. It is beautiful just to have a look through and then do the activities as well.
Thank you.
And there's someone there as well that said that the helicopter race, you can make 4 of them with 1 sheet of paper, which is great. You can keep 4 kids entertained at the same time. So that's great. I'm just having a look at the time. Do we have time for one last build?
I think we probably do, but I'm not going to do it, because I think you've had 2 builds, and I think I won't spoil the rest of the book. Please, if you are watching, please go and buy the book.
No, that's absolutely fine. And just before we finish, you've been speaking about your books and all the different kinds of things that are in them. What is your favorite build that you have in your new book?
I can tell you what it is. It's called a rubber band racer, and it's basically a rubber band powered car, which works like, I don't know if you were a child, you had those cars that you pull back and then you let go of them, and it's that car, but you make it yourself.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's unbelievably easy. But it's probably the most fiddly build in the book, but it's still unbelievably easy. And I think it's the thing that when you make it and it works, you're like, wow, and you kind of understand how those other cars work and so forth. So that's my favorite. I think that is my favorite activity in the new book. It's called the rubber band powered car or something. So, I don't know.
That sounds great. And I guess you can use the simpler activities to work your way up before you get to the rubber band car anyway.
I think that's exactly the idea. But also the book is aimed at kind of primary age children. And I think, most of the activities any age can do. And something like the rubber band powered car is something a parent could definitely do with a 4-year-old, but maybe an 8-year-old could make their own. So, I really hope one of the best things about being an author is hearing from people who've read your books, and I can't wait to see what people make of this one.
I think that's absolutely great. I'm definitely going to go and buy it as soon as it gets released as well. And can you just remind us when it goes on sale?
It's in the shops from July the 8th. But if you want to support someone like me, the best thing you can do is pre-order it. So either order it online and you'll get it on July the 8th, or even better, go to a local independent bookshop and ask them to get it for you, because that way you're supporting an independent business and supporting me. So thank you very much. I do appreciate this opportunity to plug the book.
No, I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've had so much fun. I am going to go away and try and fly my helicopter a little bit better than this little space that I have here. Very excited to do that and practice my swing with the paper bang thing. Paper banger. Looking forward to it. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And everybody go out. If you can afford to, go and buy the book. If not, keep up to date with Alom and see his videos online when they start to appear.
Thanks, Libby. Yeah, absolutely right. If you can't afford to buy the book for any reason, you can ask your local library to borrow it, or if you just look out on my social media, I'll be putting videos and links up for free.
And that's what we love things here, exploring nature and learning things about the world for free as well. That's great. Thank you so much for being with us today, Alom. Have a lovely day, and to everybody out there as well, enjoy the rest of the Festival of Nature.